Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Off the Track on Wisp Sports Radio, Episode 8. Wisp Sports Radio is brought to you by Highlands Earache Drops.
Earaches are one of the primary causes for doctor visits, with over 30 million visits per year. After you've been diagnosed with an earache by a physician, try Highlands Homeopathic Earache Drops and Tablets. Highlands Homeopathic Ear Drops and Tablets provide natural relief to help you get back to doing what you love. Visit highlands.com/ear-pain to find a retailer near you. Claims are based on traditional homeopathic practice, not accepted medical evidence, not FDA evaluated. Read and follow label directions.
Off the Track is about flat track roller derby featuring exclusive interviews. I'm Mick Swagger, and at Wisp Sports, we believe that women in sport deserve equal coverage. Thank you for joining me on this all-new show about roller derby. Off the Track podcast is hosted by me, Mick Swagger. My pronouns are she, her. Off the Track features interviews of coaches, players, former players, business owners, officials, announcers, and fans of flat track roller derby. We can be found on Wisp Sports Radio. This episode is recorded on the traditional lands of the Chinook Wawa people and the Multnomah people. I'd like to give acknowledgement that this land is unceded and stolen, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Today I will be joined by Rogue Runner, and we'll be chatting about life after top 10 WFTA competitive play. Rogue has been playing roller derby for 8 years, including 5 for the London Roller Girls All-Star team, the London Brawling. Rogue has also skated at all 3 World Cups for Team England. Rogue is the current jammer coach for Montreal's new Skids on the Block. Welcome, Rogue, and thanks for joining me today.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell us your pronouns and where you're joining us from?
I'm she, her, and I'm joining you from South Wales, UK.
And yeah, so you're doing a fair bit of traveling and coaching this season. In fact, I saw you just a few weeks ago at RollerCon, which was a pleasant surprise. I didn't know you were going to be there.
Yeah, I've done a lot of traveling this season. It was been unexpected, but it's been absolutely wonderful to get the chance to travel the world and do this great sport that we play.
So you stopped playing for the Brawling after champs of last year, but then continued until the end of World Cup. Is that right?
Yeah, yep.
So when and why did you decide to go in another direction this season and move into coaching?
Yeah, so it was I don't know if it was necessarily a sort of dead set decision. It was really just sort of a period of change. After, I definitely didn't know that I was going to do that after champs last year. I was all set to do another season. And then just a few things came up, and I was like thinking that maybe my time in London, because London's a pretty heavy city to live in, I was like, maybe the time here has come to an end. Maybe it's time to move on to different things. And so, yeah, my partner got a job offer in the same company, but just a different location down here in Wales. And we decided it was a really good idea to move down there. Our original plan was actually to move to Montreal, but it's, visas and stuff like that take a little bit more time than an over the night thought. So we decided it was a good idea to move to Wales, save a bit of money, and then maybe look to move to Canada maybe next year. So I decided that I didn't really fancy a long commute from Wales to London every week. So I thought maybe I could look into doing some coaching. And it was really just an off-the-cuff message that I sent to a friend in the Skids and said, hey, do you think you'd be interested in having me as a jammer coach? And to my surprise, they jumped at the chance. And so I thought, how can I make that work? Can I live in Wales and travel to Montreal? And of course, with this sport and its travels, anything's possible, really.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm think that we may have talked about it, but I coached the new Skids in 2015, just at the beginning of the season. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go to playoffs with them that year. And that was the first time at playoffs. But they're such a wonderful team. And I know that they have definitely changed and grown quite a bit since then. But there's still some of those folks on the team that I coached a few years ago, which is pretty incredible. How are you enjoying your time? Like, do you get to go over there very often?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a big flight, so that comes with that cost. So not as much as I would like to be able to be there, but yeah, I've sort of done a month in July, and I'm looking to go again next month. I'm just trying to sort out travel now. So yeah, just sort of month stints really, getting as much time as I can there, but then obviously keeping communicating via messenger and videos and chats and things like that.
And you would have already been used to that because your coaching business, what I didn't mention previously, Fitness Gone Rogue, you already have some capability of an online platform.
Yeah, a little bit. That was kind of the selling point to how it was going to work out. Was I've had a test already of working remotely with skaters, and obviously that's more on a one-to-one basis of online personal training. But it definitely made me realize that you can get a lot out of just having a phone call and sitting and chatting to somebody of an afternoon, and with the sort of video format that you can upload a video and they can upload videos too, and yeah, you can really sort of keep in contact quite well via that sort of platform. So that was definitely a selling point for making it work.
That's so good that you're able to. I think that's been a journey for me as a coach. When I first started, it was with them because life changed and transitioned, as you talked about, and I was going to move to I was going to stay in New York and just kind of go up there once a month for a week or so. But I ended up moving to Australia, which meant that I couldn't just pop over to Montreal whenever I wanted. And we tried, distance. Yeah, much further. It's a little bit, I think part of getting up to Montreal that's difficult, and some people will have experienced this just going to the Georgia W. Tush Classic tournament recently, is that you can't always just go directly to Montreal. Like, I think a lot of times you have to kind of go to New York and then go up. But anyway, it kind of takes a bit of time. And I wasn't that great with videos and uploading. And I watched a fair amount of their footage that they sent me, but mostly it was just having a good chat with Plastic Patrick every week, who was a new coach, and kind of talking to him about how to coach and that kind of thing. So how do you integrate the coaching staff? Like, how do you work with them as well?
Yeah, it was really it was so great, the timing of the Tush tournament, because it allowed me to sort of get out there. I spent a long time, sort of the beginning of the month, with the team, getting to know how they worked, because obviously at that point I hadn't really had a lot of contact with the coaching, and I didn't really understand their league structure and all of these things that come sort of part and parcel with how a team work. So that was sort of perfectly timed for me to get in there, see the training, get to know the coaching staff and how that works and how that runs, and then have the perfect example of a tournament structure to actually test not just that sort of structure, but also how I was going to fit into it. And really it was a big test for me, because I hadn't ever been on the bench other than with my skates and my kit on. So it was kind of I have to say, I felt pretty nervous on those first couple of games, standing on the bench and taking on this new role. So that was a really great way for me to sort of get used to the team, get to know them, but also get to work with their coaching staff. And it went really well. Like, Arkham's a really great guy, really like his style of coaching, and he's very laid back and chill. So I think it worked quite well, the two of us. And obviously they have some other great members on that coaching staff as well. And it just fitted. We just figured out our roles, and it worked really well, and the tournament went great. So it was just, everything's been great so far.
Oh, that's so good. And I don't think that those nerves will ever go away, just so you know. But I think there's definitely a different there's like a different satisfaction with being on the bench as a coach than as a skater, because as a skater you have, well, I guess you were a jammer, so there's a whole different capacity in your mindset with that than as a blocker. But I found as a skater, I felt much less responsibility, I guess, is for the game as a whole. And then as a coach, I realized what really your influence can be. So as opposed to just being one jammer and having quite a big influence, because you always do as a jammer as the point scorer, but now you're chatting with and helping however many jammers are on your bench. I'm not sure what's normal, but you're giving advice and feedback and trying to really help that. Do you also work with the rotation? Is that part of what you do?
A little bit. We had like quite a nice little sort of grouping where we would chat to each other on the bench, the other coaches, if we're recognizing something, trends, all that kind of stuff. So I would generally leave the sort of rotation stuff to the lineup and the sort of big decision making to Arkham. But if I felt one of the jammers needed something specific, then obviously I would feed that back to the lineup and we'd have that kind of open discussion happening on the bench. So yeah, a little bit of that, not completely. I sort of see my role much more as it's such a funny little thing to do, to coach the jammers, because as you say, it's sort of, they're in their own little world in a way, even though it's a team sport. Having been a jammer, I know what that feels like. So it's quite difficult sometimes as a jammer to have a coach there talking to you during the game. So I was very aware of that, and I wanted to just be able to kind of pick up on the vibe of the skater and be able to get the best out of them and to keep them performing in that great zone. And going into the working with the skids, something that I really wanted us to be able to achieve was to get all of our jammers performing on any given game, because you often find in a game that you'll have sort of maybe this style suits this jammer, this style doesn't suit this jammer. And I wanted to find a way that didn't have to be the case, that we could work as a little team, as a group of the jammers, and get them all to be performing. And so really I'm just sort of influencing them to get talking to one another and use me as kind of a sounding board. So yeah, it's been really great to kind of, I really don't feel like I'm doing a lot when I'm standing on the bench, because they're obviously out there doing it. But I just wanted to be able to be there so that if they needed anything, they could turn to me and use me, as I say, as a sounding board. And yeah, it seems to be going pretty well. They seem to have responded really well to me. And we had some big moments in the tournament as well, especially with some of the jammers who have already identified that they maybe struggle with their kind of mental game on game day. So I felt like I had a lot of experience with those things, having done it myself. So we could really kind of just talk those through and help them find the solution. So yeah, so that's kind of how it goes on the bench.
Yeah, that's certainly, it's such a great way to look at it. And I think what I really love about skaters becoming coaches is that that mindset, kind of what you would have wanted on the bench possibly, or how the kind of things that your coach brought to the bench, you can then utilize them and then add your own element to that as a former skater. And I really like, what you said about helping each jammer be the best that they can bring, and bring the best that they can bring to the game. Because I think from a blocking perspective, I don't always look at it that way. And maybe that reflects in my bench coaching. But I certainly think, okay, so this jammer is really great at this specific thing. So I definitely think of them as, in their best form, but then also as, a little pack of tools. So at this moment, we're going to use this jammer right now and maybe like rest this one for a bit. But I'm not sure that always works. And so I like the idea of like getting everybody in that flow zone, and that, when you're in the game and you're feeling really good and you're playing really well and you just keep going. And it certainly seems like at that Tush tournament that really happened, because if you can tell us a bit about the success of the tournament, Montreal came out on top.
Yeah, we did really well.
So and what were the teams that you played and outcomes that, did you seek those outcomes, or were they a bit unexpected?
It was interesting going into the tournament because there was a couple of teams the team hadn't played before, and there was a couple of teams that they didn't really know that well. For example, Rainy City, who I know you coached too, I believe. And so it was interesting having my perspective as well, because I had actually as a player played all of those opponents before. So they was really looking to me to kind of give them the answer. And I was kind of reluctant of doing that because I know that I, as a skater, have definitely gone into games with a preconceived idea of an opponent because I've sort of been told, whatever, like, oh, Rogue, you're going to have a great game against this team because I've seen them against this jammer and she has a similar style to you and all that kind of stuff. And I always found that just really got in the way of me just concentrating on my game and doing what I do. So I was very reluctant to kind of give them too much information about the style of the opponent. But I did obviously give them a little bit, bits and pieces. Really, the aim going in, I was heavily in support of just win, win, win. I wanted them to really I felt like they had what it took to really knock it out of the park. But I wanted them to also understand that they needed to believe that too. We definitely had that goal going in, but I think it was a surprise to us all, the sort of way it went. And it wasn't anything to do with the opponents and what they were predicted or what we were predicted. It was much more of it was a really interesting sort of team dynamic that came out of the weekend. We tried out some new sort of systems that we'd chatted about prior to the tournament. We had a big meeting, and I did some mental toughness seminar with them all, and we really talked through sort of game day processes. And we really focused on that, just having a very set process that we were going to follow. And in doing that, it made us much more focused on ourselves. And so the performance that we got, it just felt so much more in control, and obviously the scores then were. So yeah, it was a really great weekend, and the opponents were fantastic and gave them a great game, and it also, obviously pushed them to play out of their skin and play an amazing game. But I really think it was less to do with who the opponent was and much more to do with us focusing on sort of game day processes and things like that.
And that's exactly what you want as a coach and as a team. To you can't control the outside influences of, what the other team is bringing and what they might do on the track, but you really can control what you're doing. And, I think having a really good bench flow is so helpful. I feel like some of those games where I felt like I nailed it as a coach wasn't about me. It was about the coaching staff. We all just kind of worked really well together, communicated really well. Things went smoothly. Players felt really good. And then, you see the outcome that happens on the track for the players, which is, I think people don't realize how important having that relationship on the bench, how important that is, which is really exciting. So when can we see you again with the Skids? You'll be going with them to Atlanta?
Yeah, so we'll be heading to Atlanta playoffs on September 21st, 23rd, till the 23rd. Yeah, and I should be there with them. Really looking forward to that. As I said, I'm trying to head out there next month, which is getting super close, so I really need to get on that travel.
Yeah. And do you all plan out, who you're playing against and kind of what your goals are for playoffs? Because the Skids haven't made it to champs yet, right? Is that right? No, they did. They played against, I'm sorry, I was there watching them playing against Angel City, which was one of the most exciting games I watched, because I think I was right on the floor watching that right after one of our games, and it was so exciting. but kind of planning the way to get to champs.
As with all top 10 WFTDA teams, or probably even more than top 10, everybody's planning their route, everybody's studying each other and looking at their opponents, and all of that stuff's definitely happening.
Are there any special things happening with your jammers? Do you have any rotations or changes in the roster? I feel like I don't know all of Montreal's jammers this season. They kind of do like really fun announcements on Instagram, and I was like, I don't know who that one is. So do you have some coming up from the B team, or is it just that they're a bit unknown?
There's definitely been some new jammers up this season. I know there's been sort of some movement in the sort of Canadian surrounding area, so there's been some lovely transfers in, and there's a really nice few new jammers that are in the rotation that you would have seen at sort of the Tush tournament as well, with Kenzie and Dinada and Tiny, and then obviously we've still got the ones that people know with Whips and Falcon and Badger. So there's lots of. I love having new jammers. I find new jammers are always super exciting, and watching them develop has just been incredible. When I was there, I was getting really excited with them because, I mean, as a skater, you don't always see your progression, but as a coach, you can really see progression. And watching some of the newer jammers really like upping their game, stepping up, and having great successes in the tournament as well.
And all of that training that you bring, you'll be to see that happen on track, even if they kind of don't. And it's so good to have that perspective, because as you remind folks during tournaments, oh, that move that you've been practicing, like you just nailed it out there. And, I find that those, celebrating those successes, sometimes skaters look at you like, wait, what? I just did that? Oh my God, I didn't realize it. Or, I have been working on that and I did just nail it. I purposefully did that and just really did a good job. So it's so fun to see that as a coach. You're totally right. I love it. I miss it a little bit this season. I haven't coached as much. And same as you, life changing, and you just kind of go in a different direction. But it's really exciting to see skaters that skated in the top 10 level, coaching the top 10 level. So I just really thank you for coming on the show today and, really wanting to hear about your journey as a coach and with the Skids. And the Skids have a special place in my heart. They're a wonderful team, and they kind of helped me. Yeah, they helped me really think about coaching outside of playing, and they're so welcoming and lovely. So I'm glad that you get to have that experience, and I hope that it continues. Do you think that if, there's a lot of ifs always in life, but it sounded like, you and Kev were thinking about possibly moving to Montreal next year. Do you think you would play again, or you would continue to coach? Do you have a plan around that, or you're just kind of letting it flow?
I'm kind of going to go with it, but I think in the back of my head, I think I'd love to go back to skate again. I definitely didn't when I decided to sort of move away from London, I didn't see it as a retirement or any of those kind of things. I certainly wasn't hanging my skates up. I still love playing. I still love skating. And I'm very much being talked into by Kid Block and Tiger Bay to put my skates on with those guys, because obviously I'm so close by to those. So it may even happen before the end of the season. Obviously, I'll still be coaching Skids. Yeah. She is jamming this season, yeah. Yeah. Be a pivot. We could do some Star Pass shenanigans.
Oh, well, maybe you and Kid can do like the switch show, because she's jamming this season. You could block for her, reinvent some of those fun shenanigans, because when the new stuff happens, it always gets exciting. Well, I would certainly love to see you play again. I feel like a lot of because we've coached before, not specifically like in the same class, but we went to Derby Fest. That's what it was called. Ooh, sorry. Derby Fest in Oz. And we had some good conversations about coaching, and Fags took one of your classes, and I named a play after you because I think you're incredible. And I noticed that, your re-entry, when I played against you, your re-entry was so fast on the track. I was like, Rogue is going to smoke us if we hit her out. So let's really try not to hit her out. But people just can't help wanting to hit out jammers that are a bit bouncy. And every single time, and this is when I played on Gotham, and every single time we'd hit you out, people would, someone would go for the drawback, and you would just already be on the track and running around our 3-wall. It was incredible. And so, I definitely talk a lot about your style of jamming, which is very unique and very, I can't even describe it. It's like, you're so fast. And I almost feel like you must have a gymnastic background, because it feels like sometimes you're just like doing flips over the pack.
That's what happens in my head. I'm doing a big backflip, round off back somersault, but really I'm not.
Well, I've seen them in real life, so there must be something happening there. But it's really special to see you play, and some of the there was a highlight from Champs last year. I think it was against Rose City, and you had this massive jam, and of course it was made into its own special clip. And I watch that often, or show people like, okay, so here's the combination of skills that you just learned, and this is how someone has applied them on the track. But it's, it's not easy to do that. So in a segue, how can people learn from you to do these kinds of, physical feats that you do? You have a coaching business, Fitness Gone Rogue. I mentioned earlier, but do you want to give us a little bit more background about that?
Yeah, Fitness Gone Rogue. It totally came out of roller derby. As with everybody, when you get hit with the roller derby bug, nothing else in your life matters. And so I decided to build the rest of my life around it. So Fitness Gone Rogue was born. I'm a personal trainer, so I wanted to train skaters because I shared their interest, and it was what I was doing for myself. I wanted to get better on the track, and so I started to train other people. And yeah, it's taken different forms over the years. For the last 2 years, I've had a PT space in London, and my client base was all skaters, which is amazing. But obviously with the move, I'm moving back online again. So I'm just releasing a lot of online content at the moment, online PT. And I've got a 10-week course, which is so nearly ready to hit the web. It's got finishing touches to it before I share it with everybody. But yeah, you can follow us on obviously Instagram and Facebook at Fitness Gone Rogue, Twitter, although I don't actually use that very often. I'm not great on Twitter. And the website is fitnessgonerogue.com. And yeah, I share a lot of free content on our YouTube channel as well, all about training. My style of training is functional training, so it's a little bit different to a lot of the training that's out there for roller derby. I feel like everyone at the moment has got the CrossFit bug. I'm not on that bandwagon. I'm not big into CrossFit, but much more into. I'm a bit of a geek, so I love anatomy and I love postural corrections and things like that, and making sure that, for me, it's longevity, making sure that we've got longevity in our game on the track, but also longevity in our life as well. So our body's going to keep on moving when we do decide to hang our skates up. So yeah. So yes, shameless plug. Please follow Fitness Gone Rogue.
And you can also follow New Skids on their playoffs journey on Facebook at Montreal New Skids, or on Insta at New Skids MTL, and watch Rogue as a jammer coach. Maybe they'll do a little pan over while you're chatting with the jammers on the bench. And and watch them at playoffs in Atlanta on September 21st to the 23rd. And again, you can follow fitnessgonerogue.com, pick yourself up some great tips and advice. And I thank you for joining me today, Rogue. I really appreciate you updating us on the possibilities of staying involved in Derby after playing it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
And just to give everyone a little update on Team Indigenous at RollerCon, we have recorded 2 workshops, one which was the POC panel, and the other, which is an allyship training. I am in the process of editing. I had to take a class and go to my local radio station and just DIY that and learn how to edit. So I'm kind of right in the midst of that, as well as starting 2 new jobs. So there's quite a bit on my plate, but just be patient because those will be out in a matter of a couple of weeks. For more conversations from the world of women's sport, subscribe to Wisp Sports Radio on your podcast app and visit wispsports.com for blogs, articles, and videos, where you'll also find show notes and links for this episode. You can join in the conversation by following us on social media at Wisp Sports and by emailing us with any comments, questions, or suggestions at info@wispsports.com. Wisp Sports Radio can be found on any podcast app. Follow Wisp Sports on social media at Wisp Sports. Please give us a 5-star review on iTunes and help promote coverage of women in sport. Visit our sponsors at highlands.com/ear-pain. Thanks for listening to Off the Track and supporting women in sport everywhere.